Welcome to MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Christy McDonald. Our MiWeek contributors, Stephen Henderson and Nolan Finley, are here. Guys, you know, every time you have the first week after Labor Day, it feels like it's back to school, back to normal, back to, you know, forget the summer vacations, right? We're all
right.
back in
And
our
in a
normal
political
spots.
year, it's into the home stretch, right? This is when the candidates really start to make their case to the general election audience, and we will see a lot more ads, I suspect, over the next month or so.
Do you think we're going to? Do you think we're going to see a lot of ads? Do you think Trump's
Well,
going
both
to spend a lot of
candidates have ads up now, don't they?
Both candidates have ads up now. We won't see as many in Michigan, perhaps, as they will in Ohio and some of the other states that are truly in play. But Michigan's getting a surprising amount of attention, given that it's, you know, it is really not a swing state or a battleground state in my mind, and yet the candidates keep showing up here.
Hey, you know, there's a lot to talk about this week. So let's get started with some politics. This week launches the big push towards Election Day, as Stephen said, or as I saw in a great headline, the beginning of the end. This has been a long election cycle. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have their fair share of headlines. A new poll puts them closer. Their joint appearance this week talking foreign policy sets them apart from each other and could give us an idea of the significance of upcoming debates, plus how the third party plays into this race. Libertarian Gary Johnson is speaking to the Detroit Econ Club next week, so there's really a lot to talk to here. But let's get started with the fact that they both appeared in this candidates forum and what they called a commander-in-chief forum last night on NBC, and last night being Wednesday, if you guys see our show when we broadcast another time. What did you make of that, Nolan?
Well,
they each had 30 minutes.
Yeah, and to me, it simply confirmed what you know, what I've thought for the last several months since the nominations were secured, that we've got two very flawed candidates running for president. And I saw nothing last night that that would change my mind on that. Trump was all over the damn place in terms of firing generals here and praising Putin there. Clinton was extraordinarily defensive. I mean, she really was at her most unpleasant, I thought. And I don't see how it clarified the race at all for those people who are sitting out there and saying, gosh, I don't like either one of these candidates, and I don't know what to do. I don't think they walked away saying, wow, this one knocked me dead.
I gotta ask you about the word unpleasant. What made you use that word?
Well, I mean,
with Hillary Clinton?
She just didn't seem like she's having much fun out there. I mean, again, it was attack, attack, attack. And if you look at what's been happening in the polls over the last couple of months, Donald Trump has stayed at 39-40. The only number that's changed is her number. She goes up and she goes down. He doesn't move anywhere. I don't know what the point is continuing to make your whole campaign about Donald Trump. He's not going anywhere. He's not going up in these polls. She needs to make the case for her candidate. She needs to appear confident, competent, and lose this obsession with Donald Trump. She needs to win this race herself.
Well,
what did you think about the forum last
She
night?
clearly was competent. I mean, there was no question that the answers that she gave, her command of the material. I mean, you're not talking about an even match here at all. And there continues to be this narrative that says, wow, these are two flawed candidates.
Well, they are.
Well, all candidates are flawed, A.
Not to
B,
this extent.
Well, B, Donald Trump's flaws are so much more garish, so much more dangerous, so much more of a threat to the whole idea of the presidency. You know, he's talking about essentially being elected king or dictator or something. She's talking about being elected president, and you can disagree with the way she might make decisions or policies she might embrace, but she knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. And this idea of unpleasant, let's talk about that a second. This is a thing that gets heaped on female candidates all the time.
Oh,
why don't you smile more? What does that mean? What's she supposed to be smiling about?
I don't care if she smiles more or not, Steve. She comes off as attack, attack, attack. That's not pleasant in a man or a woman. And, you know, she's not going to be able to hide behind her skirts
for a year
in
and a
this
half.
campaign. Well, Donald, who takes him seriously, Steve? You talked about, you know, her coming up there and presenting her resume and appearing competent. And yet over the last couple of weeks, we've seen, you say Donald Trump wants to be a king. I don't disagree with you. But she operates like one, destroying evidence that was subpoenaed by Congress, knowingly destroying evidence. That's serious stuff.
If she had done that, she'd be under indictment.
She did it. You only have to look at the FBI report. I mean, that's, Steve, that's proven.
What they said was that what she did was reckless. That's not the same
Steve,
as what you're talking about.
Steve, she destroyed those emails after they were subpoenaed for Congress. That's there. That's on the record.
All right,
That's not conjecture.
I want to go back to looking at what this forum was last night, and it brought out a lot about the email. She had to talk about that. But do you think that it gives us a sense of what some of these debates are going to be like coming in the fall, and how valuable or how not valuable the debates are going to be in terms of getting substance out?
She's got to, she's got to stop indulging the false equivalent of Republicans who are disappointed with the outcome of their primaries, which got a nut job elected to represent them in the fall, and so now they're kicking mud all over her to say, well, there's no difference. There is a huge difference, and she's got to start, I think, more proactively making that case. I think where Nolan's right is she's got to make her case to the American people about who she is, what she's done. I mean, this is one of the most accomplished public officials in the history of this country. You don't get that sense from the things that she's saying. She has to focus much more on that and stop sort of indulging this idea that the flaws that Donald Trump has, which are huge character flaws, things that would disqualify him from polite company, let alone public office, are anything close to the things that she's done or been accused of, most of which, of course, are not true.
But she spends all of her time talking about Donald Trump. And
Exactly.
at some point, one of these candidates needs to move to the middle, because the middle it doesn't have a candidate in this race. She's still hanging out there on the far left fringes as if she's running against Bernie Sanders still. And the middle of America is looking for a place, a candidate they can be comfortable with. And right now, they're not comfortable with either one of these candidates.
So let's talk about the debate, though, Nolan, and let me ask you this. Does Donald Trump need to take these next debates, when they start, and give more detail to what he's talking about in terms of his policy plans or his foreign policy
I think
plans?
that's possible.
You don't think that's possible for him to give any more detail, or you don't think a debate will be able to bring that out?
We were watching, Steve and I were watching the Jerry Springer show in the green room before we come out.
We have a lot of high row watching here. Yeah.
You were. It was, what was the subject today? It was,
Twin lesbian something.
twin lesbian something, I know. But, it's going to be like that. You saw the Republican debates, and some very competent candidates, very intelligent candidates got drawn into this sort of mud free-for-all, this, WWE mess. And I expect that's what you're going to see. Donald Trump doesn't have any policy ideas, for God's. I mean, he just doesn't. And, if she continues to sort of follow him down and spend all her time pounding on Donald Trump, she's going to look as bad as Jeb Bush did, as bad as Marco Rubio did, and other candidates who should have came off a lot better in that primary season.
It's interesting. You're reading a little bit in kind of the run-up to some of the debate and taking a look at what happened on Wednesday night. Matt Lauer got a little bit of heat for how he moderated, or maybe how he did not moderate. And Chris Wallace is going to be one of the moderators, and he said it is not his job to be the fact checker when he's up there on stage. And I wanted to get your opinion on, do you think, as a moderator of the debate, that they should be the fact checker?
That's a really hard thing to ask of the moderator. And I'm not giving Matt Lauer a pass, but you are there to ask questions, to keep the thing moving, to make sure both candidates get.
So then, is it for the other candidate then to fact check the person that they're running against?
Absolutely.
Primarily, yes, it is. But Donald Trump, of course, is an anomalous candidate. I mean, we've never seen anybody who says the things that he says, or who repeats lies as frequently as he does, or tells as many lies as he does. And so I think that does recast the role of moderator a little bit. The responsibility becomes pointing out that the things that he's saying just aren't so. And that's really hard to do because, again, you've got all of these other tasks that are in front of you, and you have the pressure of time on top of it. But
as a moderator, you're not there to debate the candidate. You're not there
debating.
to correct the candidate. And if you try to do fact checking on the fly, is a risky endeavor, as we've seen with Candy Crawley during the Obama Mitt Romney debate, where she played fact checker and was wrong, and had played an influential role in that debate because she was wrong. I mean, it's too risky an endeavor. You're there to ask the questions, ask tough follow-up, you're not there to interject yourself
It's also sort
in
of,
the debate.
It's also sort of putting out a limitation of the debate format. It doesn't really allow for the kind of back and forth or discussion that would sort of air some of these things as falsehoods. But I do think that Donald Trump presents this sort of new challenge to people in the way that these are framed, because so much of what he's saying is predicated on falsehood. I mean, major portions of what he believes or what he says he wants to do.
And there's people whose role that is to fact check, and that's the other campaign. That's a fair and objective media. It is not the role.
That can keep newsrooms busy, though, for hours as well. And I do think, though, in watching him and watching how he interacts, even with interviewers and even in a moderation sense, he is. It's so hard to. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole with him because you keep trying to come back to something. I've seen this happen a couple times. One more thing before we leave the political landscape here, and talking a little bit about Michigan, a third-party candidates coming here and speaking to the Econ Club. I mean, you still have this this sense that these numbers can shift a little bit. And who does that hurt mostly? Does that hurt Hillary Clinton or does that hurt Donald Trump? Third-party candidacy.
Depends on which third-party candidate you're talking about. You have two here, one on the far right, or maybe not. That's probably not where libertarians would think of themselves. No. But certainly on the right, and one on the pretty far left. And they're drawing equally, I think, from the pools of Republicans and Democrats who are just saying, hey, I just really don't like my party's candidate this time. And so in the end, it could end up being a wash. I think if you had one candidate who was on one side who had the amount that both of those candidates had, maybe, I don't know.
Together they're drawing about 15, 16%.
Yeah.
And what I would have made the assumption that Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, would draw votes from Trump, from conservatives who say, and Republicans say, God, I just can't do it. I can't vote for Trump. But if you look at these polls, when all four candidates are on the ballot, Trump's number again stays about the same, and it's Hillary's number that moves. I mean, Trump's number is not moving in these polls.
He's not doing anything
regardless.
to attract new voters.
And he's not losing voters.
And he's not losing voters.
And which is why I still think, why keep making this campaign about Donald Trump?